Hi, I'm Sunil Balasundaram, the pastor of the Conshohocken United Methodist Church, which is here in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. Thank you once again for joining us for this devotion in which we are looking at the parables of Jesus. Today we're going to look at what Jesus talks about in terms of a life of a follower of one of his followers. What does that look like? Especially from the follower's perspective. Actually, it doesn't look any different from anybody else's. Even though it is really very different. I mean, you'll get a better understanding from the story that Jesus tells. It's found in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, and I'm reading a few verses. It says here, when the Son of Man comes in all his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in the heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on the right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on the right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. And I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" And the king will reply, "I tell you the truth, whatever you did to one of these, for the least of one of these brothers, you did that to me, for me." Jesus is talking about a time in the future. We don't know when, but it's coming. It's a time which we call, for want of a better word, Judgment Day, when it is the end. It's the end of history as we know it. And all of humanity will be in front of Jesus as the judge. And Jesus says that, there's going to be a separation, one group on one side, and he calls them like the sheep people. He's not trying to be disparaging against the goats or the sheep, but he's saying there's one kind of people, like the sheep, and others like the goats. And the people who are like the sheep, he says, are completely opposite, in contrast to the people who he called like the goats. And these were people who spontaneously showed compassion. Spontaneously showed compassion to those that were hungry, to those that were thirsty, that were naked, strangers, sick, in prison. They just did it because it welled out of them. Love just came out of them, and they wanted to do something out of that. And it seemed like they didn't seem to notice they were doing it, because when Jesus said, when you did that, you did it to me, and they seemed to wonder, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, Jesus? We didn't do that, because they didn't even know they had done it. These were the kind of people that didn't examine needy people and say to themselves, I wonder whether he's working the system, or I wonder whether she's getting what she deserves. She is suffering the consequences of her bad choices. That's why she's going through it. Or those people are marginalized people. We shouldn't really. They're dangerous people. We shouldn't touch them. They didn't examine that. They just went and showed compassion. And they didn't even know it because it came out spontaneously. And Jesus said, I recognize you as kingdom people, my kind of people, people belonging to the king, people who had a kind of love that was in them that they didn't have to strategize saying, okay, I must show my love in this way, or I must do my love works in this way. No. It just came out. They saw need and compassion welled out of them spontaneously. It means coming out from within. And Jesus says, that's the kind of people that will be with me in my kingdom. Not like the goat-like people, because they didn't do that. So the question is, and the Bible says this again and again. James especially says, faith without works is not faith at all. If you say you're following Jesus, you're following God, if you have God's love in your heart, why doesn't it show spontaneously? Show naturally in your compassion. Question then is, what about you? Jesus wants you to be his follower, but he does want followers to look like him and to be like him. And he touched people, whether they were looking for it or not. And he did it spontaneously, unconsciously. You know what? Such people bring change that is so great. They don't even know it. But God uses them to bring great change in people's lives. And if you're such a person, wow, you are a blessing and you are blessed. Thank you so much for joining us again. And please do go to our website, conchaunited.com, and we've got other wonderful stuff there. And invite your friends too to watch us. God bless. Bye-bye.